Welcome one and all to Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life. The world's first podcast devoted exclusively to in-depth interviews with the talented folks who bring comics to life in film, television, animation, video games, podcasts, and beyond. I am your host, Joe Stuber. Thank you so much for joining me in the lair today for part 2 of my trip to GalaxyCon Columbus. Yeah, that's the pop culture convention, and it makes multiple stops at cities around the country. My backyard of Columbus, Ohio being one of them. This past December, I made the trip downtown to swing by a few tables of some very cool folks, chatted a bit, and I'm bringing you those interviews right here on Comic Book Central. Now, if you want to make plans for GalaxyCon Columbus 2025, it's coming up in December. You got a little bit of time. Or if you want to check out any of the shows they've got going on, those include Animate and Nightmare Weekends. Head to GalaxyCon.com for all the information. And be sure to tell them Stuberman sent you. One quick note before we get to today's guest. If you caught part 1 of my GalaxyCon recap, hopefully you caught that. If you're listening to part 2, hopefully you caught part 1. You know I've got a very cool giveaway going on right now. 3 giveaways, in fact. Details are on the last episode, so you want to make sure you check that out. Also on my social media pages, Facebook, X, and Bluesky. So you want to like and follow those pages. Check out the pin posts there. Check out the super giveaways that I've got going on. And there is another giveaway coming up in the weeks ahead. I told you I was postponing my anniversary giveaways. Well, they're coming at you fast and furious right now. For that upcoming giveaway, you're going to want to make sure you've subscribed to the Comic Book Central YouTube channel. I'm just saying. I'm sure you have already, but just in case you haven't, you're going to want to make sure you subscribe to the Comic Book Central YouTube channel. All right, big show to get to. A bunch of interviews coming your way today. First, let's pay a few bills, keep the lights on here in the lair. Then I'm going to be back with part 2 of my trip to GalaxyCon Columbus.
I've been drawing funny all my life, and for the past few years, I've been producing Drawing Funny, the pandemically inspired podcast. I'm your host, Len Workman, and the podcast is now in its 5th season.
Wow, this guy must really be a professional.
Tune in as I share my latest reviews, news, and interviews.
That would be creepy and fun.
I focus on the Mid-South art and convention scene.
I'm sorry that this causes you so much stress.
I spotlight comic creator Kickstarter campaigns, offer up some recommended reading, share art advice, and talk tunes with some sketchy characters in the comics industry and fandom.
All right, we're here with Jerry the King Lawler. King, everybody knows you got into...
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Everybody knows me, but can they recognize you for that voice?
You can find Drawing Funny at drawingfunny.com, on Spotify, Apple, or most anywhere you like to download podcasts. You can even ask your smart devices to play Drawing Funny.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Now, you listeners out there know I love big pop culture anniversaries, and 2024 had a bunch of them, including the 40th anniversary of the classic flick Gremlins. Oh, that's one of my favorite films. I watched it again recently. It really holds up. I had never seen Gremlins 2, though, all these years. I finally get to watch Gremlins 2 as well. That is a very cool film as well. Stars Zach Galligan. He was at GalaxyCon Columbus, and he gave me some inside information on a very cool Gremlins project he's been working on. Welcome to Columbus.
Thank you.
I'm sorry we couldn't make it a little bit warmer for you.
Oh,
it is December after all, so...
I'm from New York City, so I'm used to it.
Okay. And happy 40th anniversary.
Oh, thank you.
To Gremlins. Are you aware of that? I'm sure you are.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
There's very few things that happen with regards to Gremlins that I'm not aware of.
How do you celebrate a 40th anniversary? How does Zach Galligan celebrate a 40th anniversary?
Well, I celebrated it this summer by writing a book called Being Billy, The Making of Gremlins. And I finished it.
It's not out yet.
Oh, no. And I sent it to Joe Dante to read. He liked it so much he wrote the foreword for the book.
You were kind of hoping for that, right? But you didn't.
I was hoping for that, but you never know. People sometimes are funny about reading about themselves, so you never know whether they're going to respond in a positive way or a negative way, even if you write something really glowing about them.
This wasn't like a Screech tell-all thing, was it? Or this is pretty tame stuff, right? I mean, you didn't...
Well, I wouldn't say it's tame. I would say it's interesting and exciting.
Okay.
And emotionally moving, because it's basically the emotional journey that I went through as a young actor, being thrust into a huge lead in a Spielberg movie, my second movie, and what that was like emotionally for a young man like myself who's only 19 with limited experience to go through that 4-month experience, not to mention waiting months for the movie to come out, not knowing whether it would come out and make your career or come out and destroy your career.
It probably could have gone either way with all the, because this is like before the advent of CGI. They're looking at puppets.
Sure.
Did they initially, were they trying to use monkeys, and was it like,
yes,
what all were they going through?
They were trying. If they could have used animals, they would have, but it was impossible. The animals couldn't be trained well enough, and that whole part was way before I got involved in it.
Okay.
When I got involved with it, they were already. Actually, when I got involved with it and got cast, that was right around the time, which is March of '83, about a month before they started shooting. That's right about the time that Spielberg decided that they shouldn't kill off Gizmo halfway through, and instead he should compete with the dog to see which one would be Billy's favorite sidekick.
Yeah.
So they had to, in the last month, dramatically expand Gizmo's role and ability.
So that was all on the fly? I mean, were they writing stuff?
That was all in the last 6 weeks before shooting.
Wow.
So it was a huge scramble. That's why Chris Walas, who did the special effects, vowed that he would never do Gremlins 2. Because he had so much PTSD, literal PTSD, from working on the first one, and so many different last-second changes that required enormous amounts of work, Some of them required him staying up, literally almost days at a time in order to get them for the deadline.
Yeah. I mean, everything's practical. Everything's shot in camera.
Sure.
If the puppets don't work, it's like Jaws, then the shark doesn't work.
So all of these things had to be changed overnight, or with very, very short windows. And by the time it was over, he was so exhausted. He was almost on a verge of a nervous breakdown, according to him.
Yeah.
And when they called him 5 years later to do Gremlins 2 and offer it to him, he had a full-blown panic attack on the phone.
Wow.
He didn't realize how much it had affected him.
It came back.
And he had such a traumatic response.
Wow.
That he said, there's no way I'm ever going to do another Gremlins movie again. I can't. It would be like, asking a soldier to go back to Vietnam, to do another tour of duty.
It was that extreme.
Because it was that extreme. And that's how Rick Baker got to do Gremlins 2.
Okay. Now, conversely, you were just the opposite. You were when things went broken down, you kind of chilled out in Spielberg's office and played video games?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was Spielberg's office like? How nerdy was it tricked out?
Well, you would walk down the hall, and then there were 2 large rooms on either side. On the left-hand side, through that door, you'd walk in, and just as you walked in, there'd be Spielberg's desk and his chair, and then he had a couple of sliding glass doors with the E.T. bicycles leaning against them. And above his desk, he had the sled from Rosebud, the Rosebud sled from Citizen Kane, or one of the 5.
And at 19, you knew what that was?
Oh, I knew what that was, yeah.
Wow.
I knew what that was. I'd taken a bunch of film classes at Columbia as a freshman and sophomore.
Wow, like a museum.
Like a museum, yeah. And then in the room that down the hall to the right was like a playroom. So it had a billiards table and 4 stand-up video games.
Nice.
Had Missile Command, Food Fight, Pole Position, and Millipede.
Classics.
And
the classics.
I would go in there, and I became an expert at Millipede. So at Pole Position, and would lure. Corey Feldman eventually found out and would follow me to, because he was 11 at the time.
Yeah.
Would follow me to Spielberg's office and insist that I play him in Food Fight, which was a ridiculous game in which a chef threw pies at various entities as he tried to get from one side of the screen to the other.
Yeah.
It was an incredibly ridiculous and easy game. But what I found immediately was that I was extremely good at it, and Corey was terrible.
You still remind him of that?
And so I spent the better part of 3 weeks just kicking his butt over and over again, and then occasionally letting him win, so that he wouldn't completely give up. And when he won, He was the happiest 11-year-old child you had ever seen in your life. And when he lost, he was the most frustrated, angry, bitter child. He would go around, he'd start kicking other machines, cursing like a sailor. It was
wow.
All
this
funny.
is in the book?
All this is in the book.
Nice.
It was so unbelievably funny. I almost peed my pants. I'd be laughing so hard. And I saw him at Steel City Comic-Con 2021. And he goes, "Hey, man, how you doing, buddy?" I'm like, "Hey, man, big hug, this and that. What are you doing?" "Oh, this, going to the last Phil Collins or Genesis show, blah, 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 blah." And then he walked away with his, girl of the moment. He's walking down the hall, and I went, "Hey, Corey." And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "I still kicked your ass at Food Fight." And he goes, "I'm going to get you, Galligan. I swear to God."
All came back like that. Like no time
Came
had
back
yeah.
like it was 1983 all over again.
Favorite moments from filming Gremlins? I mean, other than sharing the screen with Phoebe Cates. I mean, the envy of every red-blooded American male, but...
Yeah, I mean, definitely working with Christopher Lee in Gremlins 2. That was big. That was big for me. I kind of felt the same way Carrie Fisher must have felt when she worked with Peter Cushing.
Yeah.
Working with those Hammer legends.
Yeah.
So great. And he was so dapper. 6'5", immaculately dressed, perfectly groomed, always knew his lines, ultimate professional, incredibly polite, so respectful. Whenever I go over to England, I always say, Christopher Lee is the best representative for your country that you ever had. He's every positive thing about English culture that you could have in one human being.
When's the book come out, and how can fans follow you and find out about it?
Well, you can always follow me on either Twitter or Instagram. Those are the two platforms that I use fairly religiously. Less Twitter lately, but I'm on Instagram a fair amount. I do IG Lives there at ZWG-Man. That's my initials. Zachary Wolf Galligan, ZWG, and man because I'm a man. And that'll give you the play-by-play. Right now, Phoebe's reading it. And once she's done reading it, we get her thoughts and suggestions and omissions or no omissions. Then we'll take it to the book agent and get it out, see if publishers want to do it, publish it, and hopefully have it out for next Christmas. If it was out 1 year from today, that'd be perfect.
So looking forward to that. Zach, enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, the folks at GalaxyCon were nice enough to set up some interviews in advance of the show with a few of the celebrities. Got to head into the press room for those. You heard one of them on the last episode. That was with Cobra Kai's Martin Kove. Right now, I want to bring you my conversation with Corbin Bernsen. Yeah, Corbin Bernsen is well known for his roles in the Major League movies, as well as 8 seasons on the smash hit TV series LA Law. And he recently had a very memorable appearance on Marvel's The Punisher television series. Of course, we had to talk about that. And I got to bring up a few other very cool listings on his acting resume. Check it out. If you don't mind, I'd like to just maybe do a little true and false with some different aspects of your career and see if we can clean up some things here. True or false, you have an uncredited role as a reporter in 1976's King Kong.
True.
That is true.
True.
Okay, what can you tell me about your experience filming King Kong?
They needed 7 Screen Actors Guild actors because they were going to be directed to basically extras. They didn't have any lines to basically hassle Jessica Lange's character when she's up there. It makes Kong angry. So they needed to direct us, and they can't kind of direct extras, and they wanted actors, so that's it. I mean, so I'm up there. If you look at that movie, I've kind of got a fedora on, and I'm kind of shaking her around, trying to get answers from her.
Do you watch it? Do you watch it? Have you seen it?
No, since 1977.
It's a great movie. Oh, really? It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
It holds up. Okay. 2 years ago at this very convention, I had the honor of interviewing your wife, the lovely Amanda Pays from The Flash. Mm-hmm. True or false? She killed you off in a television movie?
True. Hard to remember. We only did a couple of them together.
1991?
Was it Dead on the Money?
Dead on the Money. Dead on the Money. What happened in that?
Did she kill me? I don't remember it. Okay. Don't remember it. But yes,
she's with another guy. You're not happy about it. She throws you off a cliff. Did that? Ring any bells?
It kind of rings a bell. But some of those smaller little films with the catalog.
Did she get to work out some aggravation during that scene at all? Or
Man, we have no aggro to work out, man. We're good.
Okay, you played another Q in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation opposite the great John Delancey. True or false? When Delancey wasn't able to make a VIP appearance with fans in Las Vegas, you popped in just like a Q from that episode and filled in for him.
I was there. I didn't know those were the circumstances.
Nobody told you.
Nobody told me that I was the second choice. But that's okay. I've been the second choice a lot.
That's okay. Well, you get thrown off a better and get thrown off a cliff. I mean, that's for sure. Why was that role uncredited in Star Trek: The Next Generation? What was up with that?
I don't think it was uncredited?
It was uncredited. Yeah.
Well, we'll fix that.
Did the check clear?
Really?
I believe so.
I recall something about that. Sometimes I'll do things. People have asked me, "Would you just come and do this for a day, do this for an afternoon?"
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but I'm not going to add it to. I don't want to take a. What I don't want to do is be like, after everybody in the world, Corbin Bernsen, my name is stuck down somewhere. Right. So if it's not like that important, let me just go and do it.
Right.
You can use it however you want to do it, but I don't really recall that. That's 2 uncredited. Well, right. 3. Clam bake with Elvis.
Clam bake, that is uncredited for sure. True or false? You have a sizable snow globe collection.
Very true.
You have a favorite?
No, many.
Really?
I don't.
Kids,
no, it's
like picking a kid.
I have 4 kids. No, I don't. I don't do that game in life. Favorites change, right?
Do you have a Star Trek snow globe or King Kong snow globe?
I've got many Star Treks. There are some Enterprise ones. There's some good ones.
Okay. I got to ask you about the Punisher and working with the great Annette O'Toole, and man, some dark. Really, really dark character. Obviously, it's a Punisher, but what do you recall about filming that?
My work changed on that show. The actor in me changed. There's a scene at the end where I'm going to take the gun and do myself, but building up to all this stuff, building up to it, somehow I wasn't the guy from LA Law, the guy from Major League, the guy from I had a little bit more gravitas and strangeness. Even though I'd done films like The Dentist, I'd done other roles. I really felt like something changed in there, and I remember John, a couple people going like, "Wow," and I thought like, "Oh, that's great when you get the respect from the other actors." Yeah. And I thought like, okay, it gave me confidence.
Yeah. And working with Annette,
great. I mean, awesome. Just a wonderful one. I had a great experience. I always hold out hope that somewhere I'm going to do something with her.
35th anniversary of Major League. Why does this film still resonate all these years later? Even baseball's changed. My goodness.
Because it's a good story. It's a simple story. It's a good story. It's a story of humanity about, the underdog. And we love that story. It's also a story about redemption, which we could use a few of those stories these days.
What's next for you?
I just filmed, financed, produced, wrote, my son directed a spec pilot called Woodstockers, about 2 guys who went to Woodstock and never left. And now they're into their 70s, and the reconciliations and the reckonings of life circumstances come around. And as I started it was kind of a stoner comedy of 70-year-olds. And it turned into a much more important thing as I started to really get into the whole Woodstock generation, the whole ideal of peace and love that will win the day. And in fact, that generation kind of failed, yet our kids now are leaning back into it, and we kind of need the message then. It's just I talked to an actress who was in it, Barbara Hershey, wonderful actress. I said, "What do you think happened?" She goes, "Drugs. Drugs killed it. Drugs took..." For all the momentum and the energy and the desire to shape society, drugs do what drugs do, and they soften your edge. And she thinks it's drugs that killed it.
So it's a hippie movie with a heart, can we say?
It's a hippie movie with a heart, and it's also yielding to... I think we're going to see stuff more and more. I think Ted Dance is doing a show now. You're going to see about people that are older in common situations, because we're of a generation still that... music is relatable. Films are. It's not like we're our parents' 70s. That they were done. Yeah, we're still vital. So
good, because I like that, because I'm getting older now.
Yeah, right. And then it's also something so you don't have to watch something that's about 20-year-olds. I mean, I just had one of my very best friends growing up. His wife died, recently. This year's 70. And watching him, we had a phone call yesterday, watching and listening to him start his life again. It's like, she's worried we're moving too fast. And we're thinking like, my God, we had this conversation 50 years ago.
Right.
Same conversation.
Yeah.
And so we're of an age where if your wife passes at 70, hey, I'll do 20 more with somebody else.
Yeah.
I guess.
Looking forward to these roles. Thank you so much. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy Columbus.
Thank you. Love it here.
All right, time to take flight into the world of Supergirl. A couple of very cool guests from that TV series were in attendance at GalaxyCon. First up, the man who brought Maxwell Lord to life in the first season of Supergirl, a great actor who's been in a lot of our favorite projects, Peter Facinelli.
Welcome to Columbus.
Oh, thanks. Glad
to have you here. Okay, going back a little bit, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, that was your inspiration, the film, to get into acting?
I saw that movie when I was a kid, and I remember watching it on TV thinking Robert Redford and Paul Newman looked like they were having so much fun. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. And so I told my parents, I said, I want to be an actor. And they kind of laughed.
Yeah.
Because, my parents are from Italy. And
straight out of Italy.
Straight out of Italy.
Yeah.
And my dad didn't come to America until he was 18, and my mom didn't come until she was 17. So for them, we knew no one in the business. That was telling them I wanted to go to Mars, So the next
be a
time,
juggler or a mime or something, yeah.
The next time they said, "What do you want to be?" I said, "A lawyer," because that got a lot of a lawyer in the family.
Yeah, that's better.
But then and I never did a high school play or anything because I was really shy. And when I went to college, I took an acting 101 class just for fun. I kind of fell in love with it, and then I transferred into NYU and I studied theater there. And I told my parents. They said, why are you transferring to NYU and studying acting? And I said, well, to be a lawyer, you have to get up in front of people. I'm really shy, so it's part of the requirement. You have to take acting classes.
Nice.
Thankfully, they bought it.
Yeah, nothing like lying to parents and starting a career.
Cut to 30 years later, here I am talking to you.
I've got to ask you about Maxwell Lord from Supergirl. The show's creator, Greg Berlanti, he gave you comic books to read coming in? Do you remember which ones he gave you?
No, he didn't. I had a meeting with him in his office. We talked about Maxwell Lord. I knew a little bit about Maxwell. I didn't know that much about that character. So I was excited to be part of superhero world because I hadn't done that before.
Right.
So I read some comics and I kind of just formulated my own based on the scripts. He's kind of a mad genius for me, the way I was playing him, who had his own social ideas of how things should go. He was kind of a combination between Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you about. In 2015, that date is key. 2015, you said the comics version was kind of like Donald Trump. Your version was closer to Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I'm interested now in 2024, seeing how life has played out and history has unveiled itself.
Yeah.
Would you approach the character differently
now?
No,
because I think there was
does this justify what
there was
you
a
did
little,
with the character?
Yeah, it feels like I didn't know much about Trump then, but it feels like there was a little bit of him in there too,
Yeah.
And because there's a little bit of that in him now that I know more about him.
Yeah.
That was just innately in there anyway.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I don't think I'd play him different. I think there's a part of him that felt like what he was doing as that character, Maxwell Lord, like he was, just justified a lot of what he did for the greater good, and he had his own ideas of how things should be, and so when he needed help, he teamed up with people, and when he didn't, it was kind of there was a selfish approach to him, but for him, for the character, it was his way of just doing things for the greater good, which is sometimes morally objectable, or sometimes people will question, but in his world, he had his own justifications for everything he did.
Do you have a favorite moment working on the series, looking back now that it's
all
behind you?
The Bizarro character was a fun episode for me. They did the Supergirl Bizarro character, and so getting to create that Frankenstein kind of monster, and I think he had a love-hate relationship with Supergirl. I wish I got to do more. They moved to Vancouver.
They moved to Vancouver.
I had my family in LA, so I ended up staying back. But if they continued in LA, I would have totally done more.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story about that episode. I was at a fan convention once, and I met a young actress, and she was a fan, and she said, I'm an actress, I hope we get to work together one day. And I said, I'm going to put that in the universe, and I hope that we get to work together too. And I think I wrote, I'll see you on set,
Right.
And cut to a couple of years later, she played the female Bizarro, and she came up to me and she said, you put it in the universe, we were going to work together. It was a great role. She had the guest lead for that episode. Wow. And it was such a full circle moment that I got to meet a fan who then I ended up getting to work with in a great role.
That's nice when things work out. Speaking of working on roles, 10 upcoming projects on your IMDb pages. Can that be right? This is insane.
Yeah, I don't even know anymore. Like, you get to a point where people are like, hey, I saw you in this movie, but I've done so many that, like,
you're busy.
For me, I just I do the movie and then I move on to the next one. I move on to the next one. So it sounds right.
Yeah.
There could be. I always have stuff in development.
Okay. Can we follow you and know what's coming up?
Yes, on at Peter Facinelli on Instagram and Twitter. I have a movie with Zach Levi coming out in February. Unbreakable Boy.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to see him tomorrow. It's called The Unbreakable Boy. That I produced that one as well.
Nice.
And so that's the next one coming out. And then there's a World War I film I have coming out next year. A lot of films coming out next year. And then I have stuff that I'm directing, stuff that I'm writing. So keep watching. Keep watching. I try to make different things. So try to make something for everybody.
Peter, enjoy the weekend.
Thank you so much.
And next up from Supergirl, another memorable adversary for the Maid of Might. Look, it's never easy bringing the character of Mr. Mixes-Pitalik from the page to the screen. Howie Mandel did it. I talked to him back on episode 314 about how he was able to do that. Another actor who took on the role of the imp from the fifth dimension is the wildly entertaining Thomas Lennon. Now, of course, Thomas is well known for co-creating and starring in the sitcom Reno 911. Yes, he does attend conventions in his very memorable and very minuscule Reno 911 costume. You can see it for yourself if you check out my photo album for the convention. It's on my Facebook page. Thomas also took on the role of Mixie in season 5 of Supergirl. He took over the role from actor Peter Gaudio. Welcome, sir, to Columbus.
Thank you very much.
Glad to see that you're going full Reno 911 for the crowd, full costume. It's 20 degrees here in Columbus. Please tell me you haven't gone outside in this outfit.
I've been outside a little bit, but not in the shorts. So,
God.
We're having a beautiful, brisk weekend. Although I've been out, I'm a Midwestern boy myself. So I'm from Chicago, and I live up in Wisconsin a lot of the time. I'm a Great Lakes guy, so you really can't scare me, Columbus, with this 20.
I got to give you credit.
Let's meet up at minus 20, and we'll talk from there.
I got to give you credit. All these years later, you stay in great shape to pull off the outfit. Is it getting tougher each year, though?
It's a lot smaller than you think, and it basically is a full-time job.
Oh, it's not what I think. I know exactly how small it is because I'm 2 inches from you here. If I told you all those years ago, over 20 years ago, all these seasons of Reno 911, movies and everything else, you're still going strong with it today. What would that actor, Thomas Lennon, have said?
I certainly would have been surprised because, we've done now 124 episodes of the show and 3 films.
Yeah.
And not counting just, various live performances and things like that. So I was not thinking this would be like my career, because for us, we thought we were just kind of doing another sketch show because we had done The State and we'd done Viva Variety. So this was really just supposed to be our next sort of sketch show. And then...
Who knew?
And the characters really clicked. Yeah. And it was interesting how, it's one of these shows where, all of the characters really clicked.
Yeah.
When you have that group of us together, Carlos, Mary, Cedric, Nisi, Carrie, Wendy, it's just it really... Well, you can tell that we're friends.
Everybody can see themselves in the characters too, probably.
Yeah, there's a lot of relatability. I think in actually most police departments, somebody always says, "Oh, this is our Clemmy," or "This is our Dangle."
Right.
And so it has stood the test of time in a weird way.
It's Comic Book Central. I've got to ask you about Mr. Mixes-Pitalik.
Mr. Mixes-Pitalik.
So you came in season 5, took over for the other actor.
Yeah,
Peter Gaudio,
who I think was. You want to hear the honest version? Because it paints
or
me...
lie, either way.
I'll tell you the very honest version that I think paints me in an interesting light. which is, I think they wanted a version of Mr. Mxyzptlk who wasn't going to be like a love interest of some kind.
Oh, okay.
No, honestly.
Yeah.
Because like Peter is
it
like...
wasn't the Derby version. He was bringing flowers.
Peter's like a very like handsome leading man type. Yeah. And
You're no slouch.
You're very sweet.
Yeah.
But I'm more the weird little guy in the bowler hat, which if you look up Mr. Mxyzptlk, he's a pretty weird little guy in a bowler hat.
Yeah.
So I think, I honestly think it was to make him less of a romantic lead type.
And more of the comic book.
Yes.
Did they give you comic books to read when you took the
role?
I
had definitely had some of my own though. Yeah.
You knew the character.
Oh yeah.
Was there anything you could get from the comic book to help you out with the character?
Yeah, of course. Well, so the little hairdo that I do is designed.
It is on your table. Yeah, you can get it signed.
The little hairdo that I do there is designed to look like in the sort of the most classic Mr. Mxyzptlk comics. Under that little hat, he's always got some little wings.
The curls,
wings of curls that kind of come out.
Yeah.
So that was basically the idea, was that I was trying to do that sort of little curly little Mr. Mxyzptlk thing. Again, that doesn't look great on your leading man.
Yeah.
But
it looks great on the show.
Perfect on a weird little sidekick.
Yeah. Not only in the Superman universe, but in the Batman universe. Star of the Dark Knight Rises.
Star of the Dark Knight Rises.
The movie doesn't work without you.
It does not. It's a great... I will say this. I'm in the funniest scene in The Dark Knight Rises.
Because it's a pretty dark movie.
That movie goes real heavy.
It's really heavy.
It's real heavy.
And then you're also Chief O'Hara. Well,
I'm also
you
Chief
get to
O'Hara.
work with Adam West and Burt Ward.
I did. A little bit. Back in the day.
Yeah.
On the first time we recorded those. But and I'd actually known Adam West was on Viva Variety also. So I knew him a little bit.
Okay.
But that was one of those ones that comes in and they're like, we need some people to do certain voices. Is there any chance you can do a Chief O'Hara? And I'm like, oh my God.
Really over-the-top Irish.
Absolutely. And I'm also an Irish citizen, so...
Yeah. Can you give us a little Chief O'Hara?
Oh my God, I'd have to be so warmed up. I wish I could, but I can't.
Cape Crusaders.
I'm literally it's a whole thing and it's really
all right,
loud.
That's fair. But you're getting warmed up. You're in Reno 911.
I'm also
though, right?
someone else, though, too. Oh, I'm also Volko.
Yeah.
In, those... Aquaman, the 3-part Aquaman, was really, and the Fate of Atlantis was really quite amazing.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to look it up.
What's next for you?
I'm writing a show for Fox that hopefully would be paired with Animal Control.
Nice.
And that's really the biggest thing. And then some movie stuff. I'm writing the movie of my novels, the Ronan Boyle series for DreamWorks.
Thomas, enjoy the weekend.
What a pleasure.
And that is a wrap on my adventure at GalaxyCon Columbus. My thanks, as always, to the folks who put the show on and for inviting Comic Book Central to be a part of the fun. Also, my thanks to Zach Galligan, Corbin Bernsen, Peter Facinelli, and Thomas Lennon for taking the time to chat with me at the convention. Looking forward to GalaxyCon Columbus 2025. It is going to take place December 5th through the 7th, 2025, so start making your plans now. GalaxyCon.com is where you go for all the information. I hope to see you all there. All right, that is all the time we have for today. Hope you are getting in on my Comic Book Central anniversary giveaways. Yeah, 2 exclusive Shazam comics from AMC Theaters and that exclusive Batman Returns Michael Keaton action figure. Those are up for grabs. Head to the socials, share the lair, get in on the action. You know what to do. The next episode is not far behind, and I'll tell you right now, you want to subscribe to the Comic Book Central YouTube channel. There is another super giveaway coming because next time on Comic Book Central, I'm sitting down with the author of the Ultimate Super Friends Companion Volumes 1 and 2, Will Rogers. We're going to have him back on the show, and we are going to review the recent DVD and Blu-ray release by Warner Home Video, Super Friends, the Complete Collection. And yes, I do have a DVD set of the collection to give away. That's what's coming up the next time we get together. So make sure you subscribe to the Comic Book Central YouTube channel. Until the next episode, keep safe, keep reading those comics. And thanks for joining me here in the lair. Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Comic Book Central. All of the content and names are registered trademarks and copyrights of their respective holders.